I'm your host, Davida Shensky, and you're listening to Live Without Limits Dreams Come True with the Right Mindset. And in this show, we're going to talk about 10 practical things that you can do to improve your communication skills. Tony Robbins said, communication is power. Those who have mastered its effective use can change their own experience of the world and the world's experience of them. All behavior and feelings find their original roots in some form of communication. There's many different types of communication, and communication is so important in today's world, and communicating effectively is so important. Miscommunication can quickly be the death of any relationship, and you've likely heard before that improving your communication is essential for healthy relationships. But how can you do that? And are there books or other tools that you can use? In this presentation, we're going to dive headfirst into interpersonal communication and how you can improve your interpersonal skills. So let's start with the basics. Now, before I get into this, I remember back in 2007 when I first started my podcast on Blog Talk Radio. I knew someone who was also a Performax or Personal Dynamics distributor of assessment profiles, and he had set up a podcast where he was going to talk about communication, but then never started it because he thought that he would not find enough to talk about communication. And as you can see, just by this presentation, that there's so many things that you can talk about when it comes to communication and effective communication. So, what is good communication? Good communication comes down to a variety of factors. And yes, it's up to both the message giver and the receiver to make communicating effectively. Essentially, healthy communication is the ability to communicate in a clear and honest way, helping you to navigate the conflict and convey your feelings, all while considering the receiver's feelings at the same time. Yet, it's not just about what's being said. The listener should use active listening to receive the message being said. That means attentive listening to the message being conveyed and not thinking about a knee jerk response. You want to find, understand, and you need to first understand. From there, you should reflect, then respond. Sometimes the response involves a simple acknowledgement. Other times it requires something a little bit more in depth. When it comes down to it, being a better communicator is about improving your listening skills and improving your ability to express yourself to others. So let's look at how you can do all of that. So, how to improve your communication skills. Interpersonal communication is called interpersonal communication because it's taking place between two people. Maybe you grew up in a family that was just bad at communicating, or you've picked up some bad habits along the way. Regardless, it's always a good idea to brush up on your communication skills and remind yourself of how to do so in a healthy and effective way. And it's important to again note it's between two people. Both parties involved have to be committed to improving communication for any relationship to work. It's a two-way stress. Now, with that in mind, here are 10 ways to improve your communication. Practice active listening. Misunderstandings are all too common. Yet, many of these misunderstandings could be well avoided by simply listening. And this doesn't mean listening and responding with the first thing that pops into your head. It means active listening. As previously stated, a this means looking to understand the message being said rather than just reacting. If you don't understand after some reflection, it can help to ask questions. 2, take into account who you're talking to. Is it your mom, a mentor, your significant other? These differences matter, and not in the way that you might think. Just because you had a bad day, this doesn't mean that you have to leeway to say whatever you want to your significant other. They have feelings too, but knowing your audience can help you convey your message in a way that the other person will understand, which is undeniably important when taking or talking or trying to solve a problem with others. Well, 3, pay attention to your body language. If you're speaking nicely, but your arms are crossed and you're flowing or you're frowning, this probably won't come off how you intend it to, because body language matters. In most cases, talking or with your legs, arms uncrossed, maintaining a neutral expression can help navigate through and also avoid someone else from interpreting the opposite of your intention. 4, ask questions. Not sure what someone else meant? Are you making assumptions? These are good questions to ask yourself. Then, once you have the answers, you'll want to probe the other person. What did they mean when they said blank? Ask. Assumptions never help anyone. 5, think before you talk. Many of us are very reactive creatures, and if you tend to respond without thinking, this is your sign to take a breath. Acknowledge that you heard the other person and take a moment to think about your response. This is also why it's never best to dig into conflict in a rush. Thinking over what you're going to say can help you course correct. That means that you can determine the possible outcomes, decide what you want the outcome to be, and try to make that outcome happen through the words that you choose. The same goes for text, conversations, or email. Always read over what you're about to say before pressing send. 6, be specific. Generalized statements tend to confuse people. Thus, the more specific, the better. Instead of saying that thing, name the object. If you're recalling an event, be specific about when and where. Again, the more information, the better. At least this is true in most cases. In some situations, being overly specific, such as during an argument, can come off as blaming, which usually doesn't help when reaching a solution or getting a message across. So use this one wisely. Remain positive and optimistic. This is basically a rule for life in general. If you've ever heard of the law of attraction, you might know that most of the time you get what you put out into the universe and the world. If you're giving someone a rude vibes, chances are they might be rude right back. Going in with positivity and optimism will probably give you the same back. So try it out. Make eye contact. Eye contact is part of the whole body language side of things with good and effective communication. Yet, you don't want to be giving too much. You want just enough to show trustworthiness and credibility. Generally, you want to maintain eye contact for about 50% of the time that you speak, for about 4 to 5 seconds each time. Don't bring up past conflicts. And this is a biggie. This is mostly to do with disagreements, and you've probably run into this one once a few times before. When has it ever helped to bring up past conflicts or disagreements? Basically, never. Stick to the topic on hand and avoid tangents. Tangents just confuse and muddle things. 10. Use when you blank, I feel blank statements. This is another great communication technique when experiencing disagreements. Use this as your template to convey your feelings without blaming the other person. Rather, this indicates that they influence how you felt, but it doesn't put full blame on them. Instead, it helps them understand. So use effective communication techniques. So, you've got the 10 ways to communicate better. What else is there? We'll try using the 7 C's of communication: clear, correct, complete, concrete, concise, cons- consideration, and courteous. Additionally, practicing empathy can go a long way. This means being able to understand and share the feelings of another. This can especially help with personal communication so that you can more clearly understand one another and avoid stepping on one another's feelings. Tools to improve your communication skills. What else can you turn to for improving your communication skills? So try these books: How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, Crucial Conversations by Carrie Patterson, You're Not Listening by Kate Murphy, Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Goodall. Alternately, there are also a variety of podcasts outlining effective communication techniques. So grab little snippets each day from them and try them out in action. So start communicating effectively today. Effective and good communication isn't a secret. There are endless resources to choose from. After learning a bit about it, the next step is taking action. Use the above tips to improve communication in the workplace and at home. These start getting so much easier when communication is crystal clear. So, from what we've been talking about, now you understand the importance of communication in our everyday life and why you need to be able to communicate effectively no matter who you're talking to or where you are at.